Thanks again, folks, for joining us today. Today, I am really fortunate to have a client of mine I worked with about 5 years ago, and we're going to get to hear Dan's story on how he found franchising and what he does every day with his brand. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you, Dan, to the viewers here. Dan Hilgedick with PMI, Property Management Inc. of the Kansas City Metro area. And if you wouldn't mind, Dan, introduce yourself. Tell them a little bit about your background pre-PMI, and what got you to start considering looking at a franchise.
Sure. So my name's Dan Hilgedick. I have have been the owner of PMI KC Metro for 4 years now. We opened it March of 2020. Prior to that, I was actually a carpenter for 14 years. And then I went back to school when I had kids and realized I needed better insurance. And then I was in software for 9 years. And then, I have always had, I've had rental properties for quite a while, back in my carpenter days even, and kind of grew up with a lot of entrepreneur type of people in my life, stepdad, my friend's dad. And one of my friend's dads had tons of rental properties, and we would work on them all the time. And that's, kind of what made me fall in love with rental properties. And then years later, I owned several by the time I opened my property management company.
So I don't, remember exactly how we connected, but I do know we looked at some other things. Um, what was it in your life that caused you to say, I want to, because you were working full time at this point too, right? Because you started your PMI and we're still working a full-time career. Um, what caused you to say, hey, I want to do something different. I want to expand beyond what I do every day.
Well, I've always kind of wanted to, and
Mhm.
I honestly had the best job I've ever had whenever I left that software company. That was the best job I'd ever had. And that was one of the requirements with you was that we needed to find something that I could start part-time,
Mhm.
um, which I did. I worked my day job, and, I assumed I had it in my head that, I'd be able to just do this property management stuff at night, after hours and on the weekends. My kids were still pretty little at the time, and they didn't require as much driving around as they do these days. But
Yeah.
that wasn't quite how it worked out. It seems like everybody always needed everything, all at the same time during right in the middle of the day. So, um, but things didn't go exactly as planned. But I am happy that I went the route I did.
Yeah, that little thing that happened in March 2020, I'm sure threw some wrinkles at you as well. Um,
Yeah,
it
that was a
it
scary time to open a business.
I can imagine 100%. It was a scary time to have businesses being a business owner. This does those unknowns, right? So hopefully in our lifetimes we don't come up against another 100-year pandemic, but obviously you worked through that. Tell people a little bit about, so Property Management Inc. Talk a little bit about the company, what you do every day, um, and maybe tie even in together like that startup period. Like how were you able to start it while you were still working and do the business?
Right. So PMI is, of course, the parent franchise, and they
Hmm.
have. It's actually one of the reasons I went with them is they have so many. They have the pillars, is what we call them, and
Hmm.
there's just so many different avenues uh, that you can branch out into. So they've got association, which is managing HOAs, and they've got residential, which is what we do. They've got commercial, which we do a little bit of, and then they've got short term, which is vacation rentals, Airbnb type of deal. And then of course they've got realty, because you have to, so for commercial and residential, you have to be licensed the same, you have to have a realtor's license.
Right.
So I ended up getting my broker's license for Missouri, and then I've got a Kansas license, salesperson license. Um, so I would say that, one of the benefits of using a company like PMI as a franchise, as a franchisor, I would say they definitely helped me get ramped up faster.
Hmm.
They helped me get, to a break even faster and start making money faster. Back when I started, and I think they've started it again. There was a meeting. Basically, all it was a meeting. It was called "Close the Door," um, and I think it was maybe 4 days a week, maybe Monday through Thursday, and we would just meet. There would be old franchisees and new franchisees, and we would just talk about our problems and how to solve them. That's one of the biggest benefit of a franchise is the other franchisees that have
Yeah.
been through what you're going through, and typically we don't see each other as competition, even though some of us are in the same markets. A lot of us are in the same markets. And there's actually a couple in our market, two of them that are newer than me, and I've even passed on some leads to them that would be great for a new person to learn from. These great
Right.
leads to learn from, but I've already learned, and I don't want to mess with them. So there's lots of benefits like that. They've got all kinds of resources. They help you get set up.
Yeah.
There's lots of programs that they can help you get enrolled in. You don't have to worry about building your own website and all this little stuff. You can just worry about trying to get business, and there's a lot of coaching available, and you know
Yeah.
I'm happy.
I've seen the technology stuff, and I know it's evolved since we worked together with PMI, and I've helped a few other people get into the system. Probably you probably know some of them, but um, it- how does the technology help somebody who wants to keep their day job, as we call it, at least for a period of time, as you ramp the business up? How does that help you, with that period, where you're trying to ramp the business up?
Sure. Well, the technology is mostly designed to help you do more with less, right?
Yeah.
So most of it is makes you more efficient. They've got showing schedulers and lock boxes and all this different stuff where you don't necessarily have to be there to get something done.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's probably, there's, when I started, I didn't have a bookkeeper. So I was using PMI books, and that was helpful because that's another part of I never thought about keeping the books for a property management company is actually pretty complicated.
Right.
Something I never had really even thought of, but they can cover you up front, and then they do charge you for that. But then I ended up hiring someone, and they kind of guided me on helping me hire a virtual assistant, and now I have two virtual assistants that full time. I've got a full time. I just call him my assistant, and then I've
Right.
got Leah that Harvey just does whatever I need all day, and then Leah does the books and
Yeah.
a lot of paperwork and different things like that we need.
So I know the goal, when we worked together, was to get into something part-time and be able to build it to your job income, and grow from there. So, and we don't need to talk about, your specific numbers or anything like that, but obviously you've been, you've done well with it. You've been full-time now for about 2 years with your property management. Would you say that we accomplished those goals with PMI?
We did, yep.
Yeah.
You and I just figured it out. It's been just over 2 years,
Yeah.
which is that's neat. I didn't even realize that. 2 years since I quit the best job I'd ever had.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I also, one thing I remember you saying was that, when you're in the beginning stages of this, everything is kind of just a dream, and I remember you were saying, I remember I called you after I went to that discovery day and I was like, well, I feel like I have to do this now. I'm like 99.9% positive that I have to do this. And you're like, I don't think you're going to get any more positive than that. Um, and so I did it. And you said, one of the things that stuck was that you said, maybe I'll come see you at your office one day, and at that time, um, I obviously didn't have an office, and we've had three different offices now, and we've got a really nice office now that's got a window. That's our first two offices didn't have windows. One was a little tiny and there's like a dungeon in the bottom of this building. And then our
Yeah.
second one was in our new building, which our new building is awesome. We've got reception at the front. We've got mailboxes down the hall. We've got break rooms. We've got access to like a shared conference room, and just the networking that is going on in this building is really cool. Like there's another broker in there, and he's just been very helpful. A lot of resources in that building. But now, I wanted a window, so now I've got these two huge windows. I can sit there at my desk and
Yeah.
see. I'm
That's
not just in a dungeon anymore. So you know. But when you said that, I was like, wow, we might have an office someday. And we do. Now we've got an office.
well, obviously because you can start this out of your house, and most people do. Yeah, but so now knowing this, and you may not remember, but I'm an absolute huge Kansas City Chiefs fan, and I'm due for a trip up there, so I'm gonna have to come see that office.
Okay, that'd be good. Yeah, we can get some
Yeah,
tickets.
there you go. Yeah, I would love to do that this fall. So, um, and I don't. We might have talked about it at the time. My son was over in Lawrence, so I was up in Kansas a lot more back when we were talking back then. But he's moved on from KU now. Obviously, it's been what, 4 or 5 years. So, um, at any rate, we kind of digress. But what to help people get it, like I think some people will watch this because they just want to see success stories of people who are doing well with a franchise in general, but there may be some people who see, well, property management, I'd really like to consider that. What kinds of things do you do every day, and what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is thinking about getting into PMI?
So you need to look at the licensing that it takes.
Yeah.
That was, you have to have a real estate license,
Hmm.
and to do that, you have to have a broker. So depending on which state you're in, you just need to look at that and figure out what the true cost of that is going to be. That's something I didn't realize how much it was going to cost me to have a broker to sponsor me as a salesperson for the first 2 years until I was able to get my license. That's something I'd look pretty heavily at. There's also so many options with PMI. I originally thought that I would do short term,
Right.
which is the vacation rental type of deal. And supposedly a short term rental, one short term rental makes the same amount as 10 long-term rentals. There's a lot more money, per day or whatever, and then, that I'm sure it also takes about 10 times the amount of work
Yeah.
as as one rental property, one long-term. So, uh, and then I decided I also have seen all these different things about all the people that complain. So tenant complaints is one of the things that I don't love about my job is dealing with angry tenants, Um, but that's the thing about short term too, is you see all these things about, they found one hair and they want a
Right.
discount. And I'm like, I'm not the type of guy that can handle that.
Yeah.
Maybe someday I'll hire somebody that can handle that, but that's not me. And I was able to identify that, and that's one of the benefits of the other franchisees, is I was able to walk, as you suggested me to. I was able to walk around this
Mm.
event and talk to people about what it would be like and what would I be doing, and where should I start, and several people were like, well, you already do long-term property management with your own rental properties. Why would you start anywhere else? So I'm glad I did that. And now we've got one commercial property.
Okay.
and we get a couple leads on association, and we're really thinking we're going to go to the association training, this summit, and just look into it a little more. I guess I didn't answer what I do on a day to day. It seems like I'm just a slave to my emails. The emails are just never ending.
Yeah.
But I would say the important things we do is screen tenants, place tenants, a lot of tenant communication. We do a lot of getting the properties ready, which I enjoy being in construction for the first 14 years of my life. I don't actually have to do the work anymore. I can do a little bit if I want. So a lot of it's just making sure the properties are cared for and ready, and then getting them on the market. Just really trying to keep everything moving,
Yeah.
keeping everybody happy, keeping the owners' properties moving, keeping the tenants happy. Keeping everything functioning. If a air conditioner right now, we've got a couple air conditioner calls. It's starting to get warm in the winter. We get a ton of heater calls. Just a lot of keeping everything moving.
So with those kind of calls, it's a matter. So sometimes I talk about property management to prospects or candidates, and they're concerned about, these repair calls or things like that. That's obviously part of what they're paying you to take those calls. Um, but it's not like you drop what you're doing and run over to the property, right? You arrange a contractor or a specialist in that, whether it's a toilet for a plumber or a air conditioner, an HVAC guy, you're sending those
Right.
people out to do it, right?
Exactly. Like, last night we had somebody kicked in the door of a vacant property, and I was able to just send somebody to go secure the building and check it, make sure nobody's
Yeah.
in there, all the windows are locked. Um,
And as you go
you
through
know,
training, PMI helps direct you to how to find all these people, right? I mean, I'm sure they help you with the.
Yeah, and just having a business, you'll get a lot of phone calls too, which you'll have to
Yeah.
weed out the good ones and the bad ones. But my phone rings every day with people trying to
Yeah.
be our next lawn care or our next plumber,
So they
and the
find you.
plumber that I'm using right now actually walked into our office and handed me a card, and I was like, you know what? I think I've been looking for a new plumber. Let's give this guy a shot, and he's been good so far. So, um, but yeah, that's just something you kind of build up over time. I would say the make ready, your general contractor is the hardest one to find. There are little companies like Lula,
Hmm.
and then they kind of have somebody that does a little bit of everything, but then that's going to be more expensive to send them.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, is just trying to combat, the quality. You want your quality up here and your pricing, somewhere up here. And a lot of times the pricing goes up and the quality goes down, and that's a constant battle that we're just trying to um,
Yeah.
keep good, trustworthy contractors. And then a lot of them will get busy, like they'll land some big thing that's making them a ton of money, so they don't have time or
Yeah.
whatever. So that's an ongoing battle, but I've got a great contractor right now that's been just killing it for us on our make readies.
Awesome.
Just good pricing and quality work.
No, I think that's important. Um, you mentioned something too that I didn't even stop and talk about before we started recording as we were getting caught up, and it was about it. It was a little more than you expected, uh, as you were trying to. And maybe I heard this wrong, so correct me if I heard it wrong. But uh, as I understood it, that was maybe like that first year you were in business, and the amount of calls or reaction, I guess, that you had to do to things. And what I didn't get to tell you at that point is because of the way you handled it, you're where you are today. And I think that it's important for somebody thinking about, oh, I could start this part-time to realize, yes, you can, but you also have to take it very seriously. And the faster you can respond to those kind of things, the faster you're going to have customers be happy, and the faster that you're going to grow your business. And I think that's a testament to you, to what you were willing to go through for that 2 years while you were doing both. Because I know how much work that had to have been. And I think that people need to be prepared for that if they want to transition this into a full-time job. I'm sure you have a lot of your peers who still work full-time jobs and do this part-time, and they're happy with a part-time income. But to me, so I don't know if you want to expand on that or not. I just wanted to say I did hear that, and I think that that's that in a short 2-year period to go full-time from where you were, I think is just a testament to everything you did in that 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I might be, a workaholic too, um, and I kind of get bored if I don't have something to work on.
Yeah,
Um, so that I might be a little bit odd there. I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of entrepreneurial type of people are maybe
yeah,
mostly the same way. Um, so yeah, it's not going to be something that you can just do real easily in your spare time. You know, it's going to be something that's going to constantly there's constantly something that's stressing you out, constantly something that's a thorn in your side or
yeah.
seven. Um, you know, in
Right.
the first, the first several, probably the first 3 years, I would work. Um, when I had a day job, obviously I would keep up with my day job and then work all night. And I would have a couple kid-free weekdays a night, and I would sit at my desk, or if I had the kids, I'd usually be back on my computer after they went to bed, and
Yeah,
now, a couple 4 years in, I try to make an effort to not work as much on the weekends. You can't not work on the weekends. There's the phone's gonna ring on Christmas Day, and I'll probably answer it.
yeah,
There's been a lot of times when my kids are here and I've answered the phone and they're kind of used to it. And I think that's part of the deal. And I'm in real estate. That's definitely part of the deal. And this is real estate.
yeah,
Um, so that can be a negative, but like you said, if you take care of people, you're gonna
yeah,
get referrals and you're gonna have long term clients. And so my very first customer signed up with me on the last day of training. So it would have been Friday, right before March of 2020. And I remember because he signed all the paperwork when I'm sitting in class, and I was like, I got 7 doors. And
sure.
everybody's like, yay. And then he's part of a group that has, another 8 plus 16 plus 20. So like, 30-ish properties that we
Yeah,
manage. And they actually came in town and I spent the day with them driving them around to their properties and thanking them. They're thanking them like, I started my business because of these guys, and they're like, well, thank you for taking care of them.
yeah,
And had I not done a decent job, because I know they've sent me some referrals and referred people, and that was the first time I'd ever met them in person after 4 years of managing their properties.
right.
So
Well,
so
I
yeah, I
think
mean,
that
just
it's interesting because PMI sits in such a unique spot in our franchising world. Most people are looking for that full-term career change, and you could do that here. Other people are looking for this semi-absentee, like a hair salon or something, and where they can keep their day job in, perpetuity. But PMI is kind of, unique in that you can start at part-time and it could be either one. The cost to get in isn't a lot. I think they tell people roughly $70,000 to get started now. I don't know if that was your experience. It sounds like working for the broker, you've got to factor in a little bit of a cost structure there that maybe they don't prepare you for. So that's good something to have on here for people listening. But it's not 300,000 to start a hair salon or a couple million to start a McDonald's or something like that.
right.
Um, um, any this has been awesome, by the way. Thank you so much. Great to catch up with you and to hear how it's gone for you and the success you've had already. Um, for people who are looking at this, considering starting their own business and or starting looking into PMI, any last words? Any thing you'd like to share with them?
Yeah, I'd say go for it. If you get the feeling that it's right. I think working with you was the best thing I did.
Yeah,
Because and it's funny to see how much I've grown since then because and I don't know that all this needs to be on the recording, but you told me to go to the franchise, what is it called, the
oh,
summit,
yeah,
which they had a discovery day, and you said to make sure to go talk to these people, and you kind of helped guide me on what to say, and that is not the person I was at that time. I was not the type of guy that would just go into a room full of all these people I don't know and just start asking them all questions. But but I did. I followed your advice, and because of that, I left that night, went back to my hotel room, and I was like, "Wow, I really think I'm supposed to do this. This is my
Yeah.
next step." And it's really weird. As a song came on, I was testing the alarm. Um, to make sure I'd wake up in the morning. And so I just set it, was walking around brushing my teeth or whatever. And then the song came on that like very, very, very much reminded me of my mom. And it was like I was already in this weird feeling of I have to do this, and then click, and the song comes on, and I'm like, wow, I feel like that's my mom telling me, that yeah, this is you got to do this. But that's kind of weird. Um, but yeah, I'd say go for it, man. It's scary. It can be real scary at first, but if you put the
Right.
work in and do good work,
Wow.
hopefully it'll grow.
Well, first, thank you very much for those sentiments. I build a relationship with everybody I talk to, it feels like, whether it's a single conversation or working together over a period of months. And so in many ways, I put my heart and soul into it too, because I really do want what's best for people. And sometimes that's not to get into a franchise. And I'm very honest with people when I feel that. So thank you for the feedback, because I don't get a chance. I don't do this often enough where I talk to people down the road and really get to hear about their side of what the experience looked like. And so I certainly appreciate that. Um, but I do honestly believe, for anybody who's looking at this, thinking about getting into a franchise, if you find the right one that aligns with your skills and with your values and interests you, and you do whatever it takes to be successful. And more importantly, you're prepared, you understand what that's going to look like before you sign. And then you do that. I don't want to say you can't fail, because anything could happen. 100-year pandemic can happen, right? Um, but it really is, the best franchises out there are set up as long as you're aligned. And that's what I specialize in doing, is lining people up with those brands. So I appreciate that. Dan, thanks so much. Awesome to catch up with you. And if anybody watching this is interested, you can comment on the YouTube channel, on my LinkedIn, or you can reach me at John at lakeportfranchisegroup.com is my email, or thatfranchiseguy.com. I'm all over the place. Yeah, I'm hard to not find, right? So thanks again for joining me today. And
Thank you.
thank you all for watching and checking out Dan's story.
Thanks for having me.